The universe warned them, never agitate humanity. They ignored it. Captain Eric Russell stood at the viewport of the USS Horizon, watching the stars streak by. The ship moved smoothly through space, carrying its human crew toward their meeting with the Zalaxian Confederation. Eric sighed and straightened his blue uniform. This was his 5th diplomatic mission, but something felt different this time. "Captain, we'll reach Zalaxian space in 6 hours," said Lieutenant Kate Powell from her station on the bridge. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel as she monitored communications. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Any word from our advance team?" Eric asked. Kate shook her head. "Nothing since yesterday, sir. That's unusual." Eric nodded and tried to ignore the worry growing in his stomach. The Earth Alliance had sent the USS Horizon to establish formal relations with the Zalaxians, an advanced alien coalition that controlled a large section of the galaxy. Humans were newcomers to galactic society, having developed faster than light travel only 30 years ago. "Dr. Martinez wants to see you in the science lab," Kate added. "She says it's important." Eric made his way through the ship's corridors, nodding to crew members as he passed. The USS Horizon was Earth's finest vessel, built for peace, but ready for trouble if needed. He hoped trouble wouldn't be necessary. Dr. Olivia Martinez barely looked up when Eric entered the lab. Her dark hair was pulled back and her eyes were fixed on a screen filled with strange symbols. "You wanted to see me, Doctor?" Eric asked. Olivia jumped slightly. "Captain?" "Yes, sorry. I've been studying these texts from the Galactic Archives. The Trelgarians shared them with us last month. And..." Eric moved closer to look at the screen. "They're warnings, Captain. Ancient warnings about humans." Olivia pointed to a section of text. "This part calls us the Sleeping Warriors, and specifically, warns other species not to provoke us." Eric frowned. "That's strange. Most galactic species see us as primitive newcomers." "Exactly," Olivia said. "But these texts are thousands of years old. They shouldn't know about humans at all. Yet here, we are with specific warnings about not making us angry." Eric was about to respond when his communicator beeped. "Captain Russell to the bridge, urgent," Kate's voice said over the speaker. When Eric arrived on the bridge, Kate's face was grim. "Sir, I've intercepted communications between Zalaxian officials. They're talking about us." "Show me," Eric ordered. Kate played the recording. The translation software converted the alien language to English and 2 voices filled the bridge. "The humans seek diplomatic relations," said the first voice. "They are primitive and weak," replied the second. "Some of the older species warned us about them, called them dangerous." Laughter followed. "Superstitious nonsense. They have only a handful of colonies and outdated technology. The Supreme Director believes we should make an example of them. Show the other factions that the Zalaxian Confederation fears no one. When do we begin?" "Soon. We'll strike their colony on New Anchorage first. The Supreme Director believes a show of force will make the humans submit quickly." The recording ended and silence filled the bridge. Eric's hands tightened into fists. "How old is this recording?" he asked quietly. 6 hours, sir," Kate replied. "But there's more. I've detected a fleet of Zalaxian warships moving toward New Anchorage. They'll arrive in less than 2 hours." "New Anchorage has 20,000 colonists," Eric said. "Mostly families, scientists, farmers." His voice hardened. "Contact Earth Alliance Command immediately. Send them everything we have. Then set course. For New Anchorage, maximum speed." "Sir, we can't outrun the Zalaxian fleet," Kate said. "And the Horizon isn't a warship." "I know, Lieutenant. But we need to be there. We need to witness what happens." Eric sat in the captain's chair, his face set like stone. "And we need to remember." The USS Horizon reached New Anchorage 12 hours later. By then it was too late. The Zalaxian attack had been swift and merciless. From orbit, Eric could see the burning ruins of the colony's main settlement. Thousands dead. Hundreds taken prisoner. "They didn't even warn them," whispered Kate, her face pale as she looked at the sensor readings. "The colonists had no chance to surrender or escape." Eric stood silent, watching the destruction below. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady. Send a complete record to Earth. Everything we're seeing, everything we know about the Zelaxians. Dr. Martinez had joined them on the bridge. What will Earth do? She asked quietly. What the ancient texts warned about, Eric replied. The sleeping warriors are about to wake up. On Earth, Admiral John Blackwood received the transmission from the USS Horizon in his office at Alliance headquarters. His weathered face showed no emotion as he watched the footage of New Anchorage burning. When the recording ended, his aide waited nervously for his response. Sir, your orders? Admiral Blackwood stood slowly. Activate the 7th Fleet. Release. The Prometheus protocols. The aide's eyes widened. Sir, those are our most advanced weapon systems. The galactic community doesn't know we have them. They're about to find out, Blackwood said. He walked to the window and looked up at the sky. Contact every nation on Earth. Tell them what has happened. Tell them it's time. Yes, sir. The aide hesitated. The Zelaxians are the most powerful confederation in this sector. They have technology we've only dreamed of. Admiral Blackwood turned, and for the first time, a cold smile touched his lips. No, son. They have technology they've let us see. There's a difference. Across Earth, the response was immediate. Nations that had competed with each other for centuries now united. Hidden shipyards revealed vessels far more advanced than any Earth had publicly acknowledged. Weapon systems that had been developed in secret were brought into the light. Commander Sam Green, Earth's most brilliant tactical mind, stood before the Alliance Parliament and presented his strategy. The Zelaxians believe we're weak and divided, he said. They expect us to beg for mercy. Instead, we'll hit them everywhere at once. Show them exactly who they've provoked. Dr. Lily Chen activated Project Prometheus, an experimental technology that could disrupt the Zelaxians' communication networks. As she worked, she remembered her grandparents who had settled on New Anchorage 5 years ago. The Zelaxians had taken everything from her. Now she would help take everything from them. The Earth Alliance Parliament voted unanimously to retaliate. Their message, broadcast on all galactic channels, was simple. You were warned. As Earth prepared for war, Captain Eric Russell and the USS Horizon remained in orbit around the ruins of New Anchorage. They would bear witness. They would remember. And soon, they would return to Earth to join what was coming. The universe had warned them. Never agitate humanity. The Zelaxians had ignored the warning. Now they would learn why that was a mistake they would never forget. The universe warned them. Never agitate humanity. They ignored it. Admiral John Blackwood stood in the dimly lit war room beneath Earth Alliance headquarters. Around him, screens showed the gathering human fleet. Ships that had been hidden in secret bases across the solar system now moved into formation. Some were 3 times larger than anything Earth had publicly acknowledged owning. All fleet commanders are online, sir, said his aide. Blackwood nodded and looked at the faces appearing on the main screen. Men and women from every nation on Earth, all wearing the same determined expression. The Zelaxians believe they know who we are, Blackwood said. They believe we are weak, primitive, divided. They attacked New Anchorage because they thought we would surrender rather than fight. He paused. They were wrong. Commander Sam Green stood up from his seat at the strategy table. His simple gray uniform had no medals or decorations, but everyone knew his reputation. The best tactical mind on Earth. We've analyzed Zelaxian defenses and communication networks, Sam said. Thanks to Dr. Chen's work with Project Prometheus, we can now disrupt their faster-than-light communications. He pointed to the star map showing Zelaxian territory. We'll hit these 5 locations simultaneously. Their main shipyard at Tora, Prime. Their fuel processing center at Zalax III. Their military academy on Ventar. Their communications hub at Lorix. And their forward base nearest to our territory at Haleen. They outnumber us, said General Patricia Weber from her command ship. Even with our hidden fleet. Sam nodded. Yes. But they don't expect us to attack at all. And they certainly don't expect us to hit 5 high-value targets at once. Their forces are spread throughout their territory, confident in their superior numbers and technology. Dr. Lily Chen spoke next. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady. Project Prometheus is ready. Once activated, it will create a cascade failure in their quantum entanglement communication system. They'll be limited to light speed, communications only, which means significant delays between their systems. How long will we have before they adapt? Asked Captain Lisa Garcia from the assault ship USS Valiant. 6 hours, Lily answered. Maybe 8 if we're lucky. Blackwood looked around the room. That will be enough. Captain Russell and the USS Horizon are still near New Anchorage. They've reported that the Zalaxians have established a temporary base on the planet. They're holding prisoners there. The room grew quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. The Zalaxians had taken humans captive, probably for study or slave labor. The rescue of those prisoners is our secondary objective, Blackwood continued. Captain Frank Miller will lead that mission with the USS Defiant. Frank's face appeared on screen. His expression was grim but determined. My team is ready, Admiral. We'll get our people back. Sam pointed to his tactical display again. The USS Defiant will slip in during the initial attack. The Zalaxians will be too busy responding to our main assault to notice a single stealth ship approaching New Anchorage. Blackwood straightened his shoulders. We launch in 6 hours. Remember what we're fighting for. Remember New Anchorage. As the meeting ended, Sam approached Lily, who was working at her station. How are you holding up? He asked quietly. Lily's fingers paused over her keyboard. My parents died on New Anchorage. I keep thinking about what happened to them, what those aliens did. Sam put his hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, Lily said, her voice hardening. Just make sure we hit them hard enough that they never do this again. 6 hours later, the human fleet divided into 5 battle groups and jumped to their targets. On the bridge of his command ship, Blackwood watched as the stars blurred and then reformed into new patterns. They had arrived at Tora Prime, the main Zalaxian shipyard. Dozens of half-built Zalaxian vessels floated in orbit around the rust-colored planet. Defense platforms dotted the space around them. For a moment, everything was peaceful. Activate Project Prometheus, Blackwood ordered. Across human space, Lily pressed the activation key. The device hummed to life, sending invisible waves across space-time, disrupting the delicate quantum entanglement the Zalaxians used for instant communication. On the Zalaxian ships, alarms suddenly blared. Confusion spread as commanders found themselves unable to contact their central command. Before they could react, the human fleet opened fire. Advanced missiles that the galactic community didn't know humans possessed streaked toward the shipyard. Defensive platforms exploded one after another. Zalaxian crews scrambled to battle stations, but they were too slow. They're launching fighters, reported Blackwood's sensor officer. Deploy our drones, Blackwood ordered. Small, pilotless craft swarmed from the human ships, moving with impossible speed and precision. They intercepted the Zalaxian fighters, destroying them before they could get close to the human fleet. Meanwhile, near New Anchorage, the USS Defiant slipped silently toward the planet. Captain Frank Miller watched the blue-green world grow larger on his view screen. Somewhere down there were human survivors, being held by the aliens who had destroyed their homes. Stealth systems at maximum, reported his first officer. No sign. They've detected us. Frank nodded. Take us in. Prepare the strike team. In the Defiant's loading bay, 20 soldiers checked their gear. They wore advanced armor that adapted to its surroundings, making them nearly invisible. Their weapons were designed to work against Zalaxian shields, technology Earth wasn't supposed to understand yet. Sergeant Diane Foster finished checking her rifle and looked at her team. Remember the plan. We go in fast, find our people, and get out. No heroics. No revenge missions. Just get our people home. Back at Tora Prime, the battle was nearly over. The shipyard was in ruins, Zalaxian vessels either destroyed or fleeing. Similar reports came in from the other battle groups. The surprise had been complete. We've taken all objectives, Admiral, Sam reported. Minimal casualties on our side. Severe losses for the Zalaxians. Blackwood nodded, but his expression remained serious. This is just the beginning. They'll regroup and counterattack. They still don't understand who they're dealing with. On his personal communication channel, a message appeared from an unexpected source. The Trelgarians, one of the oldest species in the galaxy, were requesting to speak with Earth's leadership. "Put them through," Blackwood ordered. The wrinkled gray face of a Trelgarian elder appeared on his screen. "Admiral Blackwood, I am Elder Zorak. We have observed your response to the Zalaxian aggression." "And?" Blackwood asked cautiously. "We tried to warn them," Zorak said. "The ancient texts speak of humanity's potential, of the sleeping warriors who once awakened cannot be easily subdued." "You knew this would happen?" Zorak's large eyes blinked slowly. "We knew the pattern. It has happened before, with other species. A powerful faction becomes arrogant, attacks those they consider weak, and discovers too late that they have misjudged." Blackwood leaned forward. "We want peace, Elder Zorak, but we will not allow what happened at New Anchorage to go unpunished." "Nor should you," Zorak replied. "The Trelgarian Council wishes to offer alliance with Earth. Others will follow. The Zalaxians have made a grave error, and the balance of power shifts." As Blackwood considered this unexpected development, reports came in from New Anchorage. Captain Miller's team had succeeded. They had rescued 347 human prisoners. They were coming home. The first day of human retaliation was ending, but the war had just begun. The universe warned them, never agitate humanity. They ignored it. Supreme Director Zoltar of the Zalaxian Confederation stared at the reports on his screen in disbelief. His golden scales seemed to have lost their shine, and his usually proud posture was bent with worry. "This cannot be correct," he hissed to his military advisor. "The humans were primitives. How could they destroy 5 of our major facilities in a single day?" The advisor, General Krell, kept his eyes lowered. "The reports are accurate, Supreme Director. The humans used technology we did not know they possessed. They somehow disrupted our quantum communications. Our forces couldn't coordinate their defense." Zoltar slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Impossible. We have monitored their development for years. They were barely capable of faster-than-light travel." "It seems they kept their true capabilities hidden," Krell said carefully, "and the Trelgarians have now openly allied with them. 3 other species have broken ties with our confederation in the last 12 hours. "Cowards!" Zoltar spat. "They fear the humans after one lucky attack?" "They fear what will come next," Krell replied. "The ancient warnings, do not speak to me of those superstitious texts." Zoltar stood up, his tall frame towering over the general. "I will not be intimidated by primitive apes from a backwater planet. Prepare our main fleet. We will strike directly at Earth. Show the galaxy what happens to those who challenge the Zalaxian Confederation." On the planet Thrayax, a Zalaxian colony world far from the capital, Sergeant Diane Foster led her team through dense alien forests. After the successful rescue mission at New Anchorage, they had been redeployed to this strategic world that housed a major Zalaxian military base. "Movement ahead," whispered Corporal Alex Hayes, pointing to his scanner. Diane raised her hand, signaling the squad to stop. Through the trees, they could see a small Zalaxian settlement. Unlike the military base they had scouted earlier, this appeared to be a civilian community. "Are those children?" Alex asked, looking through his binoculars at the small, scaled figures playing in what looked like a schoolyard. Diane looked for herself and nodded. "Civilian settlement. We go around. Our target is the military base." "But Command said to disable any Zalaxian facility we find," argued Private Jason Bell. "These are the aliens who killed our people on New Anchorage." Diane turned to face her squad. "Those are children down there. Civilians. We're soldiers, not murderers. We hit military. Targets only." Her voice left no room for argument. "The difference between us and them is that we know where to draw the line." The squad moved on, circling wide around the settlement. Later that day, they successfully destroyed the military base's communications array without a single civilian casualty. Back on Earth, Ambassador Nicole Harris prepared to meet with the Trelgarian delegation. The elegant woman had been called back from retirement when the crisis began. "Remember," advised her aide, The Trelgarians are over 10,000 years more advanced than us. They rarely involve themselves in galactic politics. Nicole nodded. Yet they've chosen to ally with us now. I want to know why. The meeting took place in a garden at Earth Alliance headquarters. Elder Zorak and 3 other Trelgarians waited there, their gray, wrinkled skin catching the sunlight. Ambassador Harris, Zorak greeted her. Thank you for meeting with us. The thanks are ours, Nicole replied. Your support means a great deal to Earth. Zorak gestured to a bench, and they both sat down. We have watched your species for a long time, Ambassador. Humans are unique. In what way? Nicole asked. Most species follow predictable patterns as they evolve. They either become extremely aggressive and destroy themselves, or they become peaceful and develop slowly. Zorak's large eyes blinked slowly. Humans are different. You can be fierce warriors when threatened, yet show remarkable restraint and compassion in victory. We've made many mistakes throughout our history, Nicole admitted. Yes, agreed Zorak. But you learn from them. The Zelaxians do not. They believe power is everything. They do not understand that true strength comes from knowing when not to use power. They attacked one of our colonies without warning, Nicole said, her voice hardening. They killed thousands of innocent people. And yet, your forces have specifically targeted military installations. Our observers noted that your soldiers went out of their way to avoid civilian casualties on Thrax. Zorak leaned forward. This is why we have allied with you. This is why the warnings about humanity exist in the ancient texts. What warnings exactly? Nicole asked. That humans fight hardest when defending others. That when provoked, you become unstoppable. But most importantly, that you temper your strength with wisdom. Zorak handed her a small device. This contains the location of the Zelaxian main fleet. They plan to attack Earth directly. In space, Captain Eric Russell and the USS Horizon joined a growing human fleet. After witnessing the destruction of New Anchorage, Eric had requested a combat assignment. Now he commanded a battle group of 5 ships, preparing to intercept the Zelaxian fleet. The Trelgarians came through, Admiral Blackwood told him over a secure channel. We know exactly where the Zelaxians will be and when. We'll be ready, Eric promised. He looked around at his bridge crew. They had all seen what happened at New Anchorage. None of them would forget. Lieutenant Kate Powell approached him after the call ended. Captain, we've decoded more of the Zelaxian defense grid. We can bypass it completely now. Eric nodded. Good work, Lieutenant. Any news from Dr. Martinez? She's working with the Trelgarian scientists. They're developing something to counter the Zelaxian shields. On the main Zelaxian warship, Supreme Director Zoltar prepared to lead the attack on Earth personally. His pride would not allow him to admit he had made a mistake in attacking the humans. Supreme Director, General Krell said hesitantly. 3. More of our allied species have withdrawn from the Confederation. The Valerians, the Mox, and even the Juthar have broken ties with us. They will return when we crush the humans. Zoltar dismissed the news. How long until we reach Earth? 12 hours at current speed, Krell replied. Excellent. This rebellion will be over by tomorrow. What Zoltar didn't know was that hidden among his own crew were those who no longer believed in his leadership. Several junior officers had begun to question the wisdom of attacking a species that had proven far more dangerous than expected. Meanwhile, Sam Green finalized his strategy for the coming battle. They expect us to defend Earth, he told the Bea gathered commanders. Instead, we'll meet them here at the Cassini Gap. He pointed to a region of space where Saturn's rings would provide a tactical advantage. And we'll have a surprise waiting for them. Dr. Lily Chen entered the room, looking exhausted but triumphant. Project Prometheus has been upgraded. Instead of just disrupting their communications, we can now interfere with their navigation systems too. For how long? Sam asked. Just 3 minutes, Lily replied. But that should be enough. 3 minutes where they can't communicate or navigate properly. Sam nodded. That's all we need. As both fleets moved toward their inevitable clash, The galaxy watched. The ancient warnings about humanity were being proven true. The sleeping warriors had awakened, the tide had turned, and the Zelaxians were about to learn just how great a mistake they had made. The universe warned them, never agitate humanity. They ignored it. The rings of Saturn glittered in the distance as the human fleet took position. Admiral Blackwood stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as ships moved into formation. The plan was in place, now they waited. Zelaxian fleet detected, announced the sensor officer. They'll be in range in 10 minutes. Blackwood nodded. All ships maintain position. Remember the plan. Captain Eric Russell commanded the left flank of the fleet. His 5 ships were hidden in the debris of Saturn's rings, powered down to avoid detection. Everyone ready? Eric asked his crew. Lieutenant Kate Powell nodded from her station. Ready, Captain, just waiting for the signal. The massive Zelaxian fleet appeared, hundreds of ships moving in tight formation toward Earth. At their center was the Supreme Director's flagship, 3 times larger than any other vessel. They don't even have scouts out, Kate observed. They're still underestimating us. Eric smiled grimly. That's about to change. On the main human flagship, Admiral Blackwood gave the order. Activate Project Prometheus. In her lab on Earth, Dr. Lily Chen pressed the activation key. The upgraded system sent out invisible waves that crossed the vast distance of space in seconds. The Zelaxian ships suddenly slowed as their navigation systems failed. Fire, Blackwood ordered. From their hiding places in Saturn's rings, Eric's ships powered up and launched a barrage of missiles. The left flank of the Zelaxian fleet erupted in explosions. Supreme Director Zoltar gripped the arms of his command chair as his ship shook. What is happening? He demanded. We're under attack, General Krell shouted. Our navigation systems are failing, communications are down. The humans were waiting for us. Impossible, Zoltar hissed. How could they know our approach vector? Before Krell could answer, more explosions rocked the ship. The human fleet was executing a perfect flanking maneuver, hitting the Zelaxians from 3 sides at once. We need to retreat, Krell urged. Supreme Director, we walked into a trap. Zoltar's scales darkened with rage. No retreat. Deploy the prototype. Krell's eyes widened. The void weapon? But sir, it's untested. The scientists warned it could destabilize space-time itself. Do it, Zoltar screamed. I will not be defeated by primitives. On Earth, Chief Engineer Paul Jackson was reviewing sensor data when he noticed an unusual energy buildup in the Zelaxian flagship. Dr. Chen, look at this, he called to Lily, who had just finished activating Project Prometheus. Lily studied the readings with growing alarm. This energy signature? It's similar to theoretical models for a space-time distortion device. In English, please, Paul said. They're preparing to use a weapon that could tear a hole in reality, Lily explained. If they activate it near Saturn, it could destroy the planet, possibly even reach Earth. Paul immediately contacted Admiral Blackwood, who was in the middle of battle. Admiral, the Zelaxians are preparing to use some kind of doomsday device. We need to stop them before they activate it. Blackwood's face paled. How much time do we have? Maybe 30 minutes, Lily cut in. I'm sending you the data now. Blackwood made a quick decision. We need a small team to infiltrate the Zelaxian flagship and disable that weapon. Volunteers only. Paul stood up. I'll go. I know more about their technology than anyone else here. I'm going too, said Communications Officer Maria Rodriguez, who had been working with Paul. I speak their language and understand their culture. Within minutes, a small stealth ship was prepared. Paul, Maria, and 3 Special Forces soldiers boarded and launched toward the Zelaxian flagship, which was now at the center of a protective formation. We'll need to slip through their defensive screen, said Lieutenant Ben Adams, the pilot. I can help with that, Paul replied. Their sensors have a blind spot that fluctuates every 3 minutes. If we time it right, we can get in undetected. As they approached the massive Zelaxian ship, Maria studied the external markings. We need to dock at the engineering section, she said. It's near the bottom of the ship. See those blue lights? That's where we want to go. Lieutenant Adams skillfully guided their ship through the chaos of battle, dodging debris and weapons fire. They reached the Zalaxian flagship and attached their ship to an external maintenance hatch. "Suits on," ordered Sergeant Gina Ortiz. "Remember, our mission is to disable the weapon. Nothing else." They entered the Zalaxian ship through the maintenance hatch. The corridors were empty, with most of the crew at battle stations. "Which way?" Sergeant Ortiz asked. Maria studied her handheld device. "This way. The energy signatures are strongest down this corridor." They moved silently through the ship, avoiding patrols. Paul was impressed by the technology around them, but kept focused on their mission. "Stop," whispered Corporal Dan White, the team's security expert. 2 guards ahead. They waited as a pair of Zalaxian soldiers passed the intersection ahead. Once the way was clear, they continued toward the source of the energy readings. Finally, they reached a massive door marked with warning symbols. Paul studied the lock. "I can bypass this, but it'll take a few minutes." "Make it quick," Sergeant Ortiz said, checking her weapon. "We don't have much time." While Paul worked on the door, Maria noticed a Zalaxian scientist approaching from a side corridor. Before the others could react, she stepped forward and spoke in the Zalaxian language. The scientist stopped, surprised to hear his own language from a human. Maria continued speaking, explaining that the weapon they were building could destroy not just Earth but the Zalaxian homeworld as well. "The void cannot be controlled," she said, using terms from Zalaxian scientific texts. "You know this. Your own research proves it." The scientist hesitated, then replied in his own language. "Many of us tried to warn the Supreme Director. He would not listen." "Help us," Maria urged. "Help us stop this before it's too late." After a moment of internal struggle, the scientist nodded. He approached the door and entered a code. The massive door slid open. Inside was a laboratory filled with complex equipment. At its center was a pulsing orb of dark energy, growing more unstable by the second. "That's it," Paul said, rushing to the main control panel. "The void weapon." The Zalaxian scientist joined him, explaining the system in his own language while Maria translated. Together they worked to safely shut down the weapon. "It's not working," Paul said after several minutes. "The sequence has already begun. We can't stop it remotely." The scientist spoke rapidly to Maria, who translated. "He says we need to remove the core manually and place it in a containment field." Paul looked at the pulsing orb. "That thing? But the radiation levels must be off the charts." The scientist nodded grimly and spoke again. Maria translated. "He says he will do it. It was his research that made this possible. It should be his responsibility to end it." Before anyone could stop him, the Zalaxian scientist stepped forward, protected only by his lab coat. He reached into the energy field and carefully removed the small dark core at the center of the orb. His scales began to blacken from the radiation. As he placed the core in a containment unit, the dark energy disappeared. The weapon was disabled. "What's happening?" demanded Supreme Director Zoltar's voice over the ship's communication system. "Why has the weapon powered down?" Security alarms began to blare throughout the ship. "Time to go," Sergeant Ortiz said. "Mission accomplished." But as they turned to leave, the door slid open, and a squad of Zalaxian soldiers rushed in, weapons raised. Paul, Maria, and their team found themselves surrounded with no way to escape. The universe warned them, never agitate humanity. They ignored it. Paul Jackson, Maria Rodriguez, and the 3 soldiers stood surrounded by Zalaxian guards on the flagship's bridge. Supreme Director Zoltar paced in front of them, his scales dark with rage. "You disabled my weapon," Zoltar hissed. "You denied me victory." "We saved both our worlds," Maria replied calmly. "That weapon would have destroyed everything, including your own people." Zoltar struck her across the face. "Silence. Tomorrow you will be executed publicly. The galaxy will see what happens to those who defy the Zalaxian Confederation." As the IMM prisoners were led away, General Krell watched with growing unease. The battle outside was going badly for the Zalaxians. Reports indicated half their fleet was already destroyed or disabled. And now the Supreme Director wanted to waste time with public executions. In the brig, Paul examined the cell they were being held in. "There's no way out of here," he said quietly. "There's always a way," Sergeant Ortiz replied. "We just haven't found it yet." Maria sat against the wall, her mind racing. Did you notice the look some of the officers were giving Zoltar? They're not happy with his leadership. Before they could discuss this further, the door to their cell block opened. General Krell entered, accompanied by 2 junior officers. "You have 10 minutes before the guard changes," Krell said, surprising the prisoners by speaking in perfect English. "Can you contact your fleet?" Paul stared at him. "You're helping us escape? Why?" "Because Zoltar is leading us to destruction," Krell replied. "Many of us have realized this. The void weapon was the final mistake. He was willing to risk our entire civilization just to defeat your species." One of the junior officers stepped forward. "The ancient warnings were correct about humans. You fight fiercely when provoked, but you show mercy when given the chance. You could have bombarded our civilian worlds. Instead, you targeted only military installations." Krell nodded. "We wish to open peace negotiations. But first, we need to remove Zoltar from power." "A coup," Maria said, understanding immediately. "Yes, but we need your help. If your Admiral Blackwood would agree to a temporary ceasefire, we can handle Zoltar and his loyal followers." Paul looked at his teammates, who nodded in agreement. "We'll help you," he said. "Let's contact our fleet." While the human prisoners worked with Krell's group, Admiral Blackwood was planning a final assault on the Zalaxian flagship. The battle around Saturn had turned decisively in humanity's favor. Still no word from Paul's team. Lieutenant Kate Powell reported to Captain Eric Russell. "We have to assume they completed their mission," Eric replied. "The energy signature from the Zalaxian weapon has disappeared." Admiral Blackwood's face appeared on the main screen. "All ships, prepare for final assault. Our objective is to disable the flagship and force their surrender." Before the attack could begin, a transmission came through on a secure channel. "Admiral Blackwood, this is Chief Engineer Paul Jackson. Do not attack the flagship. I repeat, hold your fire." Blackwood's eyes widened. "Paul, are you and your team all right?" "Yes, sir. We're working with a group of Zalaxian officers who want to overthrow Supreme Director Zoltar. They're requesting a temporary ceasefire to allow them to take control of their government." There was a moment of silence as Blackwood considered this unexpected development. "Understood," he finally said. "We'll hold our position for 2 hours. No more." On the Zalaxian flagship, General Krell's rebellion moved swiftly. Many officers and crew had grown disillusioned with Zoltar's leadership and joined the coup. They moved through the ship, securing key areas and disarming those still loyal to the Supreme Director. Zoltar was in his private quarters when Krell and a group of officers, including the human prisoners, entered. "What is the meaning of this?" Zoltar demanded. "Supreme Director, you are relieved of command," Krell announced formally. "Your reckless actions have endangered our people and our Confederation." Zoltar reached for a weapon, but Paul was faster. He tackled the Supreme Director, pinning him to the ground. "You cannot do this," Zoltar screamed as he was restrained. "I am the Supreme Director." "Not anymore," Krell replied. He turned to a communication officer. "Send word to all Zalaxian ships. The Supreme Director has been removed from power. I am assuming temporary leadership of the Confederation. All ships are ordered to cease fire immediately." Throughout the Zalaxian fleet, commanders received the message. Most had already realized the battle was lost and were relieved to have an excuse to stop fighting. One by one, Zalaxian ships powered down their weapons. 2 days later, peace negotiations began aboard the USS Horizon, where the story had started. The ship now orbited Earth, its mission very different from when it had first set out. Ambassador Nicole Harris led the human delegation. Admiral Blackwood and Captain Eric Russell sat beside her. Across the table, General Krell, now Interim Director Krell, represented the Zalaxian Confederation. "We formally apologize for the unprovoked attack on your colony," Krell began. There is no excuse for what was done to New Anchorage. We offer reparations and assistance in rebuilding. Nicole nodded. We accept your apology, Interim Director, but the families who lost loved ones cannot be compensated with money or buildings. We understand, Krell replied. We propose a memorial on New Anchorage and a permanent Zalaxian mission there to ensure nothing like this ever happens again. The negotiations continued for hours, discussing borders, trade, and security arrangements. When they ended for the day, Eric found Dr. Olivia Martinez waiting outside the conference room. How did it go? She asked. Better than expected, Eric replied. They're genuinely remorseful. Well, most of them anyway. Olivia nodded. I've been working with the Trelgarians. They want to update the Galactic archives with an entry about what happened. What will it say? They've asked us to write it, she said with a small smile. They think we've earned the right. 1 week later, the Galactic Council convened a special session. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to formalize the peace agreement between humans and Zalaxians, and to welcome humanity as a major power in galactic politics. Elder Zorak of the Trelgarians addressed the assembly. For too long, power has been measured by technological advancement alone. The recent conflict has reminded us that true strength comes from wisdom, restraint, and the courage to show mercy. Ambassador Harris signed the peace treaty on behalf of Earth. Interim Director Krell signed for the Zalaxians. As they shook hands, a human gesture Krell had learned for the occasion, applause filled the chamber. After the ceremony, Captain Eric Russell and Dr. Olivia Martinez were granted permission to update the Galactic archives. They stood before the ancient database considering what to write. The entry about humans already warns not to provoke us, Olivia said. What should we add? Eric thought for a moment, then began to type. They are warriors who wish to be peaceful, explorers who can be settlers, and while they forgive, they never forget. The universe warned you, never agitate humanity. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The fleet that had defended Saturn returned home to heroes' welcomes. The survivors of New Anchorage began the process of rebuilding, with Zalaxian engineers working alongside human construction crews. Admiral Blackwood stood on the observation deck of Earth Alliance headquarters, looking up at the stars. Ambassador. Harris joined him. Was it worth it? She asked quietly. The cost was too high, Blackwood replied. But at least something good has come from it. The galaxy looks at us differently now. With fear? Harris asked. Blackwood shook his head. With respect. They understand us better now. We don't want to fight, but we will if we must. And when we win, we offer peace rather than destruction. The sleeping warriors are awake, Harris said, quoting the ancient texts. Yes, Blackwood agreed. And the universe is finally listening.